Good morning. Good morning, beautiful Facebook. This is my way of socializing with the world without being too discriminatory or harm myself in any way because of having fun. What's my fun? My fun is learning the world I live in, learning about the world I live in, and detecting patterns and even potentially predicting future events because those patterns have repeated before in some other context. And when your body, mind, and spirit has become clearer, then it's not difficult to reach back into the files of the past and apply a potential scenario from the past to the present. And yeah, it seems like 20 years ago is definitely a theme, because 20 years ago was 9/11/2001, give or take a few years. 20 years ago was when the elections before 9/11/2001, because the system knew what was going to happen. I can't prove that as far as 9/11. And they couldn't have Gore be in office because then they couldn't carry out what they needed to carry out. So Gore was fighting for his climate change, sustainability, but that is just something in the background that eventually later on would be used. And of course, yeah, it's something that was intentional for people to know that climate change was going to happen, understanding what sustainability is versus disposability. I mean, no matter what, no matter who was fighting to get in office and whatever their platform was, it was always going to be something in the future. And that was like a predictive programming. But Bush needed to be in office. I mean, could Gore be in office? Well, you don't know what people knew when they knew it. You don't know how the players were positioned, who knows what, when, what, all that. So for all we know, Gore was just someone that played whatever part because he was really looking to change the world with green and the green machine at that point. But again, it was too early. And so no, Bush had to be in office to do what needed to be done to then develop and sustain everybody's 9/11 event collectively. We all have our own little 9/11 events in our world, but Bush needed to be the one to have a collective 9/11 event and take the fall and be the scapegoat, but yet he's very well protected. And that's everybody's role out there. Some people know their roles, other people happen to just fulfill their roles because that was just how they were programmed. And I know that for myself. The whole Jilly Juice world was just something, gosh, I don't even think the people that programmed me or even the world that programmed me back then knew this might come out of it. But then it also allows me to see both sides, which still contributes to, a productive landscape in my world, and also helping people figure out what's good for them without ramming my beliefs down anyone's throat. And so that's ultimately what the system wants, is people who understand both sides and and be empathetic to somebody else's situation, but still not try to change them or force change on them. They're going to have to choose for themselves. So anyway, it seems that 20 years ago is a theme, because even my arm, now I realize what happened. I was reaching through his gate because I was trying to escape the situation. I'm not going into great detail on that one, but that was something that I probably could have died from in that situation. But I was reaching to the gate, trying to push a button open, and then the gate opened, and I could feel it, the pressure on my arm as the gate was opening, and I pulled my arm out. And it might have hurt, but I don't remember because all the adrenaline and everything else. and it hurt for a minute. I mean, I had memories like my arm was gonna freaking fall off. I had a little bit of PTSD from my arm, and then it went away. And so I just didn't think anything of it. And that was like about 20 years ago. So now with all of this pain and suffering and feeling this my arm, like my shoulder, my arm. Yeah. When people have sports injuries or operations or implants and transplants and they want to become a whole person again, holy shit, you're in for a world of hurt. Now I understand, because the layers of trauma from sports and violence and war and surgery, oh my God. That's why I don't like the veterinary system. That's why I don't like the surgical system. That's why I don't like war. That's why you're watching all these athletes out there who have issues with their hearts and everything else, or dying on the field, because they have already sustained trauma that the body can't handle anymore, and things are coming to surface trying to repair, and they don't have what it takes because it's a faster frequency of an environment. And so, yeah, I mean, I didn't even think that situation that I endured would actually come back and haunt me biophysically. I figured that was all, no, there was actual trauma to the arm. And so you can only imagine those kind of gates that have a button that you can kind of reach, and it's a long gate. Oh, God. Yeah, that's freaking insane. That's insane. And that was, I guess that was a turning point. Because then when I was in that situation, that's when I left to go to Hawaii. My friend was like, someone that I used to know a long time ago, she was like, come over. You know, she knew that what happened. I don't know what happened or something. I don't remember. But she got a hold of me somehow. And then I talked to her and she's like, well, come out to Hawaii. And looks like you're having an issue, because I had a breakup. Right, that was right on the heels of a breakup. And so I ended up doing some stupid shit after a breakup. And that's the thing, when you're trying to figure out how to deal with crazy ass feelings and things that you thought was going to be so, and it's not, and you just do stupid stuff, and you don't care if you live or die, and then you end up in crazy situations that you survive, and you end up harming yourself, and then, going somewhere to just figure out how, yeah, you might cover up all that damage, might cover up all those feelings, but they eventually do come to surface, and they can be brutal. And that's why so many people are under the influence, why so many people are in so much pain. Like I see over my Facebook, people are in pain, burning pain. And I'm like, that is the devil taking his due. That's the devil coming back saying, okay, I gave you the cure, the feelings of getting over or not feeling something, and to carry you through. And then you're living on adrenaline, living on hormones to keep going and keep going. But one day when you finally relax, and then you finally, the climate changes and the damage and the demons and all that stuff are on the move. Holy shit. Then you gotta pay the piper. Because yeah, I was given a reprieve. What do you mean given a reprieve? Well, after all that damage, I may have had a little PTSD and I dealt with it, but that was not full healing. Not feeling pain after an injury is not really fully healed. It's just a temporary stay of execution. If you're allowed to feel every single damage that was done to you and every trauma that you ever endured that you don't even remember, holy shit, yeah, it's a lot. And when it happens in stages. That's the whole Jilly Juice world. You wake up the demons in stages, you have to then pay the piper. It's like making payments. Every single disease that I felt the last 3 years, and even the last 7 years, every single pain and suffering, every single temperature change, every single rash and headache, like I felt yesterday, oh my gosh, every single eruption, whatever it is that happens within the body, and the heart palpitations and the hunger and the feelings of anger, that is a payment for damage that was done that was not fully healed. So people say out there in the world, in their energy healing world and their medical holistic, oh, you got to heal. This is how you heal. No, you're not fucking healing. You're just covering up stuff. All the herbs, all the extracts, all the alcoholism, all the diets and the surgeries and the remedies, everything. It's not healing. It's not literally healing. That's covering up the hell that eventually one day you're going to have to pay the piper, but the system doesn't want everyone to pay the piper because it can be so excruciatingly painful. So that's why you have the died suddenlies. Because so many people have been through so much hell and it's been covered up through so many different layers of antibiotics and escapism that when they finally do have to pay the piper, oh my gosh, you hope they die suddenly because you don't want them to be through that much torture. I'm serious. I didn't even think about that situation. It was so buried deep. But remembering that, I've been in some dangerous situations because of reactions to situations that I did not handle correctly. And I can never blame anyone and say, oh gosh, this person hurt me and made me run away. No, I put myself in a situation that could have been dangerous, it could have been deadly, could have been whatever. And I did things like do stupid shit, like reach through a gate to open a button, and then the person opened the gate finally because I was looking at the camera going like, what the fuck, open the gate. And they didn't do it. So then I'm like, okay, fine, I'm just go in there. And then the gate opened. I'm like, Jesus Christ, what are they going to fucking cut my arm off? But yeah, I felt the pain and then I pulled my arm out. So I didn't cut my arm off. And that was a major trauma. And I forgot all about that when you think about it, because that's what I'm saying. Some things you don't remember how your body was, how damaged your body was at the time during that situation until it comes up later. And then you have to remember everything. And not everybody wants to remember some shit. People have been through some shit out there. And I couldn't tell you what kind of shit they've been through. That's what I'm saying. Be very careful getting with people because you don't know what's in their background. And when they finally do feel stuff, and they start breaking down, they do feel stuff, you hope they're not a complete asshole. But that's the thing without people who have been through some shit or have all these different diseases. And then their body's releasing, but they're getting skinnier and skinnier, and they still have all this damage, and they're so mean, and so they're trying to keep it together with alcohol and with pot and with sex and all that, and you can't save them. The only thing that's saving them at this point is just all the drugs, the alcohol, the sex, and you just stay far away. There is no saving anyone that's going through that much kind of pain and suffering and whatever else. And wow, it's literally insane. And so your body is definitely a map, like a map of all the different trauma, and then whatever pains that come up, something happened there, and you don't always know what. And that's what all the Reiki therapy, all the Reiki people that play with all their people's energies, and they're like putting their arms or their hands on people's areas. The person like cries all of a sudden, they cry or they sob. And so there is that side of psychology or psychotherapy or whatever, Reiki healing, what they call that, where the person remembers stuff and it releases. But see, here's the thing, even though they're releasing, there's still cells that are still held inside the body. That even though they might have released a little bit of demons, they're still residual. They haven't released, like we think about pooping it out and rebuilding. So all that trauma that kept them a certain way, then it was their body, it was their form. That's what gave them whatever life they had, even though they were being tortured. And so people go through therapies and all the diets, and they go to talk therapy and everything else. They may be releasing demons, but they're not rebuilding. So they become skinnier and skinnier and older and skinnier. Maybe they're not being tortured as much, but they're losing life force, because even that trauma gave them life force, gave them their identity. And so a way to survive all the trauma, you think about it, when you have to revisit it, whether through a therapist or, whatever, or even yourself reliving whatever experiences you have to relive, you still have to feed and rebuild a reconstruction, like the Civil War. You can't just leave the landscape to be just, war-torn. You got to go and reconstruct. That's what meat, milk, cheese, eggs, fruits, and veggies. It's reconstruction. So there's one thing to relive the pain, but it's another thing to reconstruct. People can't even relive the pain, and most of it can't even reconstruct. So then you got to leave people fucking alone. You got to leave them alone. Leave them alone. Because, wow. And I'll tell you, it's actually better, but I didn't realize to what extent I damaged myself through that situation. I didn't realize to what extent, how much of an impact that had. And that was the last couple months. And that was 20 years ago. 20 fucking years ago. And then there's other stuff that go along with that. So then with my childhood and then that situation, it's like those two worlds, like they were like married, right? You have two different worlds. Like when you brush your teeth, right? And you have mucus in your mouth and all, and then you're hawking up loogies, and then you have a residual of feeling fresh. Well, that's the offspring of the toothpaste and your mucus developing a baby called fresh breath, right? So when you can only imagine whatever traumas that you've had out there, and they're in your body fornicating with each other, they develop even a bigger trauma, a bigger baby, a bigger cancer, disease, chronic illness, and then holy shit, some people are too far gone. It's done. You can't. You lay off. You walk away from almost everybody, because you can only imagine what kind of tinderbox is happening underneath the layers and layers of just the rug. You know, they have what is called the racket, the front of the house, the image, the facade, and then the back of the house, underneath everything. Oh, it's a brewing shitstorm. You don't know what you're going to fucking trigger. And that's what you have to really be careful of in yourself, as well as people around you. And these poor kids have been born from trauma. These poor children. So you can only imagine what the system is like. Holy shit, what do we freaking develop here? That's why there's so much going on. That's why so much died suddenly. You can blame it on whatever you want. But we have people born from trauma. And these kids are suffering. They can't handle air, food, or water. They have to be treated until, the universe gently, humanely allows them to go to the other side. Holy crap. And so that's even, that was the experiment. Gen X was the crapshoot. Many Gen X didn't have kids and had to deal with their own bullshit and put all their eggs in college and their industry, and then they don't survive the industry they go into. And other Gen X had a slew of children. Many people in my junior high class have so many children. I wouldn't say high school because I went to three different high schools. But I would say a lot of people in my junior high class, that have a few on my Facebook, but not, or mutual friends. But they have so many kids, like 3 and 5, and these kids look so sickly. They're so skinny. Why are these kids so skinny? Because they were the experiment. They had kids on bodies in deficit. And so the mother was also dealing with malnutrition because she had to go and parse out her immune system to give to these children. These children are in deficit, growing up deficient. What do you mean deficient? Well, they can't handle air, food, and water. They're constantly going to the hospital. Can't eat certain foods because it's painful. God damn. And that's why the system is trying to guide reproduction carefully, because these poor children are suffering. They are literally living in the hospital. Every single time the wind freaking blows differently, they're in the hospital. They're getting something sucked out. They're getting something taken out. You're seeing people out there going like, pray, Jesus, whatever, because somebody they're going to the ER for the first time. And they've never been to the ER, and you're like, fuck. It's something is triggering. Eventually it's going to. And you can't do anything about it because you can't go back in the past, like Back to the Future, and eat a bunch of meat, milk, eat, cheese and eggs, and feel the pain and suffering as a kid. And so that way when you're 20 years old or 30 years old, you're not triggered by some crazy disease that you have no control over. Don't you wish you could go back in the past and not take those pills and eat the food that you didn't like? Well, the last 7 years, and even more so the last 3 years, I've been drinking. Last night I drank a bunch of milk. I eat ricotta cheese. But yeah, don't you wish you would have gone back in the past and drank that milk, ate that meat, not used so many different herbal remedies and detoxes? Because that would cause another freaking phantom demon in your body. Don't you wish you wouldn't have taken that Triaminic? Or that Claritin or that Allegra 20 years ago? You don't even know, I mean, really what all your trauma and all your disease originated from, but you can only imagine every single thing that you did to remedy away your disease, every single thing you did to escape the pain and suffering would develop another demon, another offspring of demon that is then trapped inside the body, and then you get all the sexual orientation, but also the demons that are the antibodies that are eating away at your bones, eating away at your vital organs, eating away at everything. And then people are suffering astronomically, and you can't help them. You cannot fucking help them. And then when people are that deficient, they hang out in groups. And they hang out in groups because somebody is fulfilling something that they don't have, or giving them something that they don't have, like hormones. What do you mean hormones? Some people have a lot more hormones, and they elicit something in you that you're like, oh, that's why women and men, when they hang out together and have parties, everyone's like, it's like a whole orgy fest, even though it's not literally like having orgy fest, but it's any kind of party get together, whether it's birthday parties or whatever, it's people communing their hormones so they get the pleasure centers fulfilled. So people hang out together. It's the pleasure centers. That connection. I get connection just from seeing Audrey and Tanya. And that's enough for me. Everybody else, okay, fine if you come on, but I'm not talking to strangers and answering questions. But I just get enough from looking at my Facebook and seeing people still doing what they do. And that's enough. I don't need to have connection with people out there. Yesterday was interesting. A police officer actually knocked on my door. I'm like, what the fuck? I see it on my Ring camera. I'm like, what the hell? Yeah, I guess somebody stole a car and left the car here and is right to the side of my Ring. And he's like, well, can I see your Ring to see if somebody if we could see who left that? And I'm like, so they can see where the person went to if they can look at other Ring cameras. And I showed them, I'm like, okay, wow, a police officer come by. It's been the Men in Black, right? And I showed them the Ring. My husband's like, what the hell? He's like, I didn't do it. I'm like, honey. But yeah, so it's a little bit of connection. But that was enough. I don't need to have the police around me. I don't need to have any kind of real connection around people unless I purposely go to the grocery store or something. But virtual connection is just as good as physical connection without being in the presence of someone who could go off the fucking deep end or tries to pull out resources from you that you don't want them to pull out. And that could be microbially, subconsciously, whatever. So, but if someone is deficient, then they will entertain so many people around them. They have to be around people because they're getting something from that situation that they don't have. It's malnutrition. Malnourished people hang out in groups. And they try to then convert others to be malnourished so they can, or bring them in. If they don't want to be brought in and assimilate, then they'll either try to destroy them or you walk the fuck away. And so I've noticed that me being different, even though I was malnourished, I was different. And anyone that didn't like somebody different, you walk into a group of homogenized people. Just like, the Real Housewives, of Orange County or any of these. A new girl comes in and they're like at each other's throats. They're going annihilating somebody different. And that was an experiment. The Real Housewives was an experiment of what happens with women when they get together and they get catty, they're jealous, competitive, annihilating each other on some level subconsciously. Be nice to your face, but stab you in the back. Oh, yeah. The Real Housewives of Orange County, the Real Housewives of all that, the whole, Real Housewives shows you what women are like when they are so malnourished. They are fucking dangerous to each other. They're dangerous to everybody. Men too. When men get together and they're all malnourished and they're trading their powers back and forth, trying to make each other men, they can be just as dangerous. Trying to pollinate everything. So that's why I've had my issues with women. And there's always has to be one girl that must be strong enough to see that and survive it. So it doesn't happen personally. It'll happen on the internet. We saw that on the internet. I was a little queen bee for a minute at the Jilly Juice world. And then suffered the attacks. And, and that needed to happen. We all have to see what we do when we band together with people. Why do we band together? Because it's a type of a type of annihilation, but it's a type of feeling like you belong and then feeling like whatever is unfulfilled within you is being fulfilled by somebody. That's why, people call each other all the time. Well, why are you calling this person? Because deficiency. If one person is so efficient and they're strong, and then there's people who are deficient, they're feeding off that person. And it's an interesting dynamic that I see all the time. And so the person who is very capable, will be surrounded by those who lack certain capabilities that need that person to fulfill certain things. And it's fun for a minute to be that powerful, but eventually people will suck you dry if you allow them. And that's when you have to know your boundaries. Because extremely capable people will be sucked dry by those who lack the capability. And that's why you keep boundaries. That's why you stay home and stay safe. That's why I don't have any friends. Because why are you friends with people? Because somebody needs something from you. It's a quid pro quo. And I don't want to enslave anyone. I'm not trying to live beyond my means where I'm requiring to have so many people around me to do shit for me. And if I want them to do shit for me, then they must be licensed, they must be bonded, they must obviously have a track record. And I pay them for their time. I don't take advantage of people. I don't want to take advantage of people. But friends do take advantage of each other because they can. That's so cynical, Jillian, but that's the nature of friendship. And so when you're super capable and you understand how the world works, then you're like, okay, I'm on my own. You don't want to have so many friends and so many people that you need to survive, because then something happens and then you need them. Then you have to basically deal with it. If they do something mean to you, but you need them, then you got to endure abuse. You got to endure, so many things. You don't ever want to depend upon someone so much that you'll be willing to forego your morals and values and endure abuse because you need somebody. Oh my God. And that's what a lot of these women do, and men, is they endure some really fucked up situations because they think they need that person, because they don't live within their means. They want to compete and keep up with the Joneses. So they'll compromise pretty much everything in order to keep up with people around them. And that's how you sell your soul. When you're chasing after wealth and money and fame and power, you'll sell your soul and then be bitching about why it is you are basically sucked dry, why you're depleted. Well, because you surround yourself with people that you needed and they needed you, and you guys were basically, feeding off each other like vampires until you're sucked dry, until you're basically now a zombie. You're Gollum. Gollum used to be Smeagol until he got a taste of wealth, power. And so the real power is within you, but people don't want to feel the power within them. They want to just take other people's power and use it. And they don't have to feel the pain and suffering of the person trying to regain the power that was lost by that friendship and by that situation. And then people suck each other dry. And then they bury each other. That's kind of the world you live in. It's kind of crazy, isn't it? But you have to survive your peers and feel the pain to see it. Some people won't be able to see it. I gotta read this. So, I don't need to. Well, I don't know. I don't know really what else there is to say, because no matter what, we're going to relive history. You can't force people to become whole people. You can't force them to go through pain and suffering if they don't have the capacity to. Popularity is not necessarily an attribute. And becoming the one who goes against the grain and the current is also painful, because you'll get so much pushback and resistance that is it worth it to you? Can you handle it? So, everyone's going to have to make a choice for themselves, but they have to see another perspective of what it's like to go through the pain and suffering, and also to see themselves, if they can even see themselves in somebody else. But no matter what, you can't force people to release demons. You can't force them to eat food. You can't force them to face their own pain and suffering. And even though I faced my own pain and suffering, and I had to articulate it in a very productive, constructive way, not everybody can. Not everybody can. And you seriously have to have a background of reading and writing, and then attempting to learn how to communicate publicly. And be okay with looking stupid. Be okay with making mistakes. Be okay with having word salad. Be okay with the criticism. Because no matter what, we're all learning something. But to be so self-conscious and not want to show, that we're learning something and tripping up on something or making a mistake, if you can't even handle making a mistake in public, then it'd be another thing to hide and then put out a front. And that's the thing is, authenticity is not perfect. The freedom to make a mistake, the freedom to say, oh, I was wrong here, the freedom to evolve is something that is not free. You got to pay for it. You got to pay with it with criticism and pain and suffering. And so the last 8 years of me learning how to public speak, last 8 years of learning how to make connections, it was painful, very painful. But luckily I had the writing, even though my writing was like word salad, and it may still be on some level, but it's a little bit more organized nowadays. I mean, people could dispute that and say, oh no, Jillian's stupid. That's fine. But I think I've improved since 2016. Okay? But it takes a while to learn how to express yourself properly. It takes a long time to learn how to express yourself properly and understand both sides, where you could actually have a conversation with yourself and take the devil's advocate. Okay? I mean, that's the beauty of my world, is learning how to take devil's advocate. Even though you're like, God, I hate what's going on in the New World Order, but then you're like, I understand it because I deal with people who are stupid around me, and they're mean, but they're also suffering from their own issues and this and that. And so it's always constantly understanding why shit happens. But yeah, you have your frustration, but the only reason why is because you have certain things you got to deal with. It's painful. And you really want to blame someone, but you really can't, because we put ourselves in these positions, and then sometimes our parents, our doctors, forced us to take medication every day, or did an operation that maybe wasn't totally necessary, but it was what was happening at the time. And you can get mad at those that did things, and you can get mad at what they did back then, but you're still alive. But can you handle the suffering of releasing those demons? And sometimes these demons come out in the dreams that you actually feel. Like, I haven't had those dreams the last week. Ever since I finally started getting over this and remembering shit, I don't have those dreams. Like, weird dreams. Like, the last dream, again, was a red futon. What was that red futon? I don't even know. But before that was feeling the spongy feeling of some hands, almost like a claw, like from the American eagle, the bald eagle, like a big large claw. That's essentially, and it was spongy. But it's like an old lady's hand, like my ancestors, that was just leaving the body, or some succubus, some incubus, who the hell knows? Occasionally I do see orbs every so often, I think I saw one yesterday. I didn't actually comment, but I did see one. Occasionally I'll see an orb here and there, but that's pretty much it. I was lucky enough that I didn't undergo operations. I was so malnourished. See, that's the thing with these kids. They're so malnourished because they've been procreated on bodies in deficit. So when I came here to America, and I had a lot of stomach pains, I had a lot of headaches, stomach pains, sneezing so hard and so violently, having so many nosebleeds. Well, why is that? Because I'm assimilating to a new environment, assimilating to the food supply, and I had a lot of stomach pains. I remember as a kid, we wait for our parents to wake up on a Saturday morning, and I'd just be like on my knees with my butt up a little bit, on my belly, just it was just hurt so much. But what can you do? And having the growing pains in my legs. Yeah, growth spurt and whatever else. Growing. It's painful growing up, but painful assimilating. And then trying to keep up with my peers, intellectually. It was easy for my sister on some level. It wasn't easy for me. So you can only imagine these kids that are procreated on bodies in deficit and they're coming to this world. It's so painful and so much pain. They can't handle milk. They can't handle meat and cheese and eggs. So the parents think everything is poison. No, it's not poison. You just bred children on a body in deficit, and they don't have an infrastructure, a sound enough infrastructure to process the food to build their capillaries or arteries or blood vessels. There are 11 different systems, 12 different systems. And so then these parents are developing and raising majorly malnourished children. And food is painful to them. And then, some of these kids are autistic. And you can't make them suffer, right? So you got to cure the autism in their body so they don't ever evolve. So they might have other areas of their body evolving, but the brain, what I felt yesterday was a headache. And that was probably because I remember what was going on with my arm in that situation. And it was like, holy shit. Was that developing a new neural pathway? Was that releasing the demon? And I did feel, oh my God, that's right. When I took a poop yesterday in the afternoon. I ate a bunch of food and stuff, pizza and whatever else. And wow, it was painful releasing that demon. It was crazy. And then I took a shower and just sitting in the hot water going oh God. But it was painful releasing that demon. And that's probably what that headache was, and then releasing that demon. So I'm telling you, when you release that demon down there, it's because your body is releasing demons up here, and you have to poop. You have to find a way to poop it out. People are afraid to do that. They're afraid to do that. But I'm telling you, you got to learn how to blow your nose, cough, sneeze, and blow your nose. Even drinking milk. Oh, but I'm allergic to milk. Well, yeah, because your body needs the immune system activation. But you can't force people to do that. You got to bring in a doctor or a nurse to know how to transition that person onto the food supply. And you can't be the one to do that, with your friends and family and your kids. It must be done with the doctor because so much growth could cause someone to die from, strokes and heart attacks and everything else. So everything has to be done in small doses, but you got to talk to a doctor. But I had milk. I steamed some milk yesterday and drank that. I steamed some milk and I had some pizza. And then I just had to release that demon. And so I looked at my eyes. I'm like, oh, okay. I felt when I was watching something on Netflix, I felt a stabbing, like something stabbed me in my eye. It was so weird. I'm like that. I hit my face by, I'm sorry, not by mistake, but I felt a stabbing and I rubbed my eye. So I felt a stabbing pain around my eye and rubbed my eye. I'm like, okay. Whatever it is, it was like a tiny, minuscule, somebody, a little tiny person take a knife and stab me right in the eye. I mean, my eyes are fine. But I know in February, I had double vision. But only when I was looking far away at something like the DMV board. And even when I'm watching Netflix, there's double vision. But I can't wait till 2030. when I go back to the DMV. I mean, I could go and see if they test my eyes again and see if I have the same diagnosis, or the same, 20-something vision. But, I feel, I still feel, I feel a bit so much better now. I mean, it's still but so yeah, when you've injured something like I did, injured my shoulder arm because of reaching through a large gate. That's why I was getting so many rashes. It was repairing the damage. And I had rash, yes, and it was painful. And then even turning over and just waking up with the arm pain. Yeah, that's the body repairing itself. So you can only imagine with these boxers, football players, athletes, someone who's been through war, someone who had their legs cut off, arms cut off, what it would be like to regrow. Oh my fucking God, it would be painful. It would be they would have to be under some kind of cure, because it would be painful. And I wish that people could handle pain and suffering to make themselves whole again in whatever manner. I wish they could handle it. But what I went through the last few months of reliving this trauma and going through the armpit pain. I mean, both sides was open, but this was the typing, this was the injury because of that gate, this was my dominant side. So this is going to go through so much damage from use from the last 50 years. And I have to go and I have to sit and let it repair itself. So yeah, if you've had your arm cut off, for whatever reason, amputated because of some situation, war or something else, and you're like, well, I want to regrow my arm. Well, not only do you have to release the demons down there, because the body has to go through, but then you also have to feel the pain of the regrowth up here. And you can't escape pain. You can't escape it. If you try to escape it, then you're cured, assuming that those cures stay intact in an aggressive environment. But that's the power that people don't realize is what's going to save them or destroy them. Power of pain in the wrong hands is a destruction. That's why no one should be putting their hands on you, inducing pain to get you to perform. That's called slavery. I mean, corporal punishment, an overseer like back in the 1860s to the poor black slaves, that's some horrible shit. Human trafficking, forcing girls to deal with this stuff. That's why I'm saying, if you can discourage your girls from trying to get married to some dude, they have no idea what's in their background, I highly suggest it, but maybe, hopefully the system will be humane enough that these kids will have a good life, and then maybe they don't survive getting to the next level, because what's in it for them? Well, our system is scaling down. They don't need as many people to build the infrastructure. They've seen everything. They've seen enough. There's too much redundancy. And so what are these girls going to do when they're in a traditional household that the only thing left for them is to get married or go on Instagram and OnlyFans? Well, the system, we have so much redundancy. We have too many Instagram, OnlyFans girls. And then, how many girls are going to go and hang out with some dude that probably will beat them or have some kind of crazy sexual desires practice upon them? And 50 Shades of Grey shit. But then I'm watching Too Hot to Handle. Oh my God. Too Hot to Handle. Because I want to see this generation of, younger millennials. Oh my God. Yeah. We're in Babylon, so to speak. That we're going to be raising a generation of girls who are just like, well, I'm not going to get married. I'm just going to be hot chick, looking hot, and hang with a group of hot girls, and we're all just going to have sex with everybody. We're all just going to have sex with everybody, and we'll work in the industry. So that's why these industries are so lucrative and so successful, because you have aggressive sexuality and pain and suffering, then developing innovation. And so until then, even that goes to the wayside. But yeah, when you watch Too Hot to Handle, yes, it's these overtly, aggressively sexual people who might be in specific industries, but they were like me in the 20s. They were just capitalizing on their beauty. But eventually, they're going to have to pay the piper. And if they can't pay the piper, that's a die suddenly. They'll get screwed to death. But they'll enjoy it, I guess, on the way out the door. I suppose. I mean, maybe they'll have kids. See, after all that fun they had in their 20s, like you're watching Too Hot to Handle, they have all that fun after they've exhausted the petri dish. Then they're like, well, now it's time for me to get married. And so then you see people get married. And it's just like the P. Diddy and the Epstein girls that were victims, you know. They've gone through that trauma. And now guess what? They're going to pass that trauma on to their offspring, who might be hot chicks later on, who knows? Who might not even survive. Who knows? So we're in Babylon right now. And Babylon is beautiful, but there's a seedier side to Babylon, and it's a painful side. But you'll see the facade, like you're seeing on Netflix, like you're seeing out there on OnlyFans and Instagram, and all the money people are making. But there's the facade, the front, that everything is great and lovey and kindness and all that shit, which people will kill you with kindness and men will hit you. People will kill you with kindness. Women kill you with kindness, men will hit you. And so you see all this stuff in the front, but the back of the house is deadly. And that's what some of these kids and people need to be aware of. That because you have this front of beauty and sexuality and kindness and love and devotion, there's a shit, when you have that as a facade in the back of the house, there's some shit storm brewing that you don't want to trigger them the wrong way, lest you be in the crosshairs. And so I've experienced, yes, women who can't hit you. I've had women hit me before, but women who can't hit you, they will kill you with kindness. They will kill you with kindness. They will kill you with love and devotion. Or make comments or ignore you. And the men, if they're justified, they'll hit you. They'll kick you. They'll grab your ass. That's your world. And if they have alcohol in the process, they can blame it on the alcohol. And I've had that happen. But what am I going to do? You can't correct these men. You can't correct these women. That's their survival mechanisms. That's their justice. So you just stay out of the public. You don't be in situations where people are getting drunk. Oh, I've been in situations where someone was drunk and was driving us home. God was looking upon us when we were on our way home and they were drunk off their ass and I'm in the car too. And we survived it. To the grace of freaking God. But I will never be in that situation again. I may have, at one point, twice in my life, drove when I shouldn't have drove. Believe me, I'm not perfect. I've done some stupid shit and I survived it. I'll never do it again. 100% clean and sober. And so a lot of people do whatever they do because they are trying to escape the pain and suffering. But the clues of people who are dealing with pain and suffering is they will kill you with kindness, love you to death, give you everything under the sun, call you 100% all the time. And then when you realize that, you become a whole person, know your boundaries, and then find a way to survive your own stupidity in your childhood and adulthood. What does that mean? Well, my world is painful. My world is, not everybody can do it. Not everybody can do it. The ones that potentially could, and you're in my Facebook, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But whatever pain you have in any part of your body, it went through a trauma that you may or may not even remember because pushed down so far, so deep into the recesses. But you're going to have to face it. Or you don't have to, but the only way you're going to actually freaking heal, literally, not this superficial healing that you get in the energy healing, medical, holistic, to actually freaking heal is to face that pain, is to face whatever caused that situation. And sometimes the people that did it to you, they're not around, they're dead. There's no point in going over there and getting justice. That's what I realized too. When I was escaping a situation, I put my hand through a gate to open up. A couple, maybe months later, police called me and said, hey, you want to testify against this person because he did something to some other chick? I'm like, no, there's no justice to be had. I put myself in a situation. I actively put myself in a situation that caused me to run away. What kind of justice? You can't try to stop someone from doing whatever they did and might continue to do unless the police regulate them. No, I face whatever stupidity that I put myself into. There is no justice. You have to actually face your own choices in life. And so, yes, you might blame your parents, you might blame some boyfriend or husband or whatever, but ultimately everything comes back to how you did stuff, how you responded, the choices you made. But the choices were made because of, we all came to this world under corruption. We all came into this world through trauma. Our parents did things that they thought was right at the time, and it caused then a cascade of events that you're like, fuck, if they hadn't done that, well, shit. You can't change the past. You can't go back to the future. You can't go back there. But if you do things differently today, then the past and the future change. And that was what Kamala Harris was trying to say in that video. Today will always be today. Even yesterday was a today. Tomorrow will be a today. So if you make little changes today, then yesterday and the future might change a little bit and maybe be completely different. But that's a whole landmark thing. Landmark education. They were used in the State Department. They were used in different corporations. Landmark education was used. Yes, they were used. They have a business development. They have a teen landmark education. They have, for the general population, and you can get, continuing education units for that. But I knew exactly what she was saying. And that's some abstract thinking. How many people who are simple-minded that I say, okay, airheads, right? Simple-minded people couldn't even grasp what the fuck she was saying. They already have a bias against her. So they're like, oh, look, here, word salad, or she's saying these words too many times or repeating. I'm like, if you actually understand what today is, it will always be tomorrow and always be yesterday. So live for today, make changes today if you want to change yesterday and you want to change the future. But I've already have a background in this. I've already had intellectual and microbial and biological, physiological, whatever, expansion because I went through the pain and suffering. Doesn't mean she's going to be an appropriate candidate that would offer a plausible perception that she could win the electoral college and even the popular vote. Nobody in the left would win the popular vote. They would win the electoral college, most likely, but would not win the popular vote. So I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I'll make my projections that potentially Kamala and Michelle might be, the next future regime, or Trump and Vance. And Michelle Obama has a huge following. Not only the women population, but the black population, the Oprah people. And that's a huge segment of the population that people don't really recognize because right now Trump has been taking over the headlines. So it almost looks like, oh yeah, he's so popular, which he is, yes, because people are taking Biden's rallies and be like, oh, look, Biden's rallies, hardly anyone's there. Maybe 10 people are there cheering. And then you go to Trump rallies and it's like 80,000, 90,000 people are like, oh yeah, Trump is popular. He's going to get it. And even myself was thinking that, but then I'm thinking like, oh shit, 20 years ago, Gore, everyone liked Gore. And then Bush comes in. Because before that was, who was before Bush and Gore? Before that, it was Bush. Oh, I'm going to see who was that. Who was before Who was president in 1997? It's probably Bush. Oh, Bill Clinton. That's right. That's right. Bill Clinton. That's right. Fuck. So Bill Clinton was president. Yeah. So Bill Clinton was president, and the whole Monica Lewinsky thing. Then he had Gore as his vice president. And so Gore then tried to become president. And everyone liked Clinton. Everyone liked Gore. Right? Clinton, Gore. And then Bush comes in. He doesn't get the popular vote, but he got the electoral vote. But why? What was his platform? I don't know. It was a while ago. 20 years ago. Fuck. I was all over freaking America 20 years ago. Yeah. All right. So history repeats. 20 years ago is not that long ago. But, yeah. Being popular is not always a good thing. But popularity shows you how easy it is to sway a population if you just give them the right words and you appeal to their background, appeal to their culture, appeal to their hopes and dreams. Develop situations where they're like, oh, I'm fighting for my rights. And then here's the savior to give you your rights, whatever they are. Yeah, but no matter what, regardless of who comes in office, whether it's the Heritage Foundation or the Obama and Harris's, deal with it. Deal with it. But I can see what happens when you have both in office. Well, what would happen? See, here's the thing. Just because you have the next 4 years of either Heritage Foundation or the Obama Harris's, it'll still be chaos. Some is afterwards they're going to have to clean it up. Who's going to clean it up? I don't know. Will it be now a more conservative regime? Are they going to wait to do that conservative Heritage Foundation stuff later on, after all the chaos of 4 years of whoever's in office when there's a civil war going on? So never think that the Heritage Foundation will be like forever gone if Harris and Obama come into office. That you may see that conservative regime come in later on, but we may need to see some messes. So, whether it's the Conservative Foundation coming or Heritage Foundation coming in this next 4 years and you have a bunch of girls get pregnant, well, it's going to be the same thing anyways. You get a bunch of girls get an abortion, maybe not survive them, or they get pregnant because they're part of a Republican family. But either way, you're going to see chaos, regardless of who's in office for the next 4 years. So just assume that by 2029, 2030, then someone's going to put order. Or maybe even before that. Maybe there might be order. But that's what I'm saying. The storyline will keep developing and developing as actions and reactions present themselves. So whatever happens, don't try not to be an asshole. But if you can't be an asshole, if you can't not be an asshole, you have to be an asshole. Then that's the only way you can get your point across without hurting somebody. Then fine, do whatever. But realize that you're going to have to deal with your own bullshit. And I'll tell you, 20 years ago, I injured myself and I had to relive that. So that's what's in it. The whole J world is about reliving your past and repairing it and facing it and taking personal responsibility. And again, I would never, ever go back to the past and even today and be like, oh God, this person did this person that. We need justice, vigilant. No. People do what they do. People say what they say. People act the way they act at the time. And then I'm just going to be the voice piece, the mouthpiece, the person who holds the world accountable for their behaviors. Not just one person. Because that person is basically a clone of so many people that acted badly and behaved badly. And some people will continue to behave badly and you still can't do anything. But if these kids out there who are growing up watching what I went through dealing with their parents and grandparents. Then maybe they might do something differently, and maybe their parents and grandparents be like, hey, yeah, I fucked up here, or here, maybe we should redirect you and not have, do this or that, or I don't know. But it takes one person to speak out without trying to gain justice for something. There's no such thing as real, actual justice. That just gives people closure. But they still have the pain and suffering and whatever choices they made to deal with. And then people become a lesson to each other. That's what Facebook, that's what all the justice system is. That's all the court cases. That's what all the articles are. It's just lessons for us to learn and learn from each other. And if you don't have to experience what somebody else experienced because you saw the situation was very similar to yours and you choose not to pursue something because of something, then you might have saved somebody from going down a road of just rigmarole. So face your demons if you can, and if you feel you have to blame somebody, then go do your justice. That's legal. But it's painful facing the demons. It really is. Holy shit. So, wow. Yeah. The world is not what you think. Mother Nature is in control. She definitely is. All right, bye.